Hey everyone, I'm back with a brand new episode of Sagacity. Today we have with us Panchalie Gunathunga from Northern Illinois University. Panchalie's Ph.D. is in Entomology. Panchalie, it's so nice to have you here. Let's jump right in. Tell us a little bit about your Ph.D.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, Madara. I'm a PhD candidate at Northern Illinois University, and my PhD is in biological sciences, and I'm especially focusing on entomology. And my research is on the response of houseflies to Denatonium benzoate. So, Denatonium benzoate is a bittering agent which is added to some of these toxic fly baits. And the purpose of adding this bittering agent to these toxic fly baits is to keep the non-targeted organisms away from the bait mixture, like pets and children. But the problem is insect perception or like insect response to these bittering agents is unknown because it differs from different insect groups. So like housefly response to Denatonium benzoate is unknown. And we are looking at whether houseflies are also showing aversive responses to the concentration of the bittering agent that is currently used in these pesticides. So usually, like in the current market, they use around 100 to 200 parts million of denatonium benzoate in a bait mixture. So in my research, we are doing behavioral tests to see whether houseflies are avoiding that concentration. If so, then we have to either reduce the concentration of bittering agent that is currently used, or we have to look into alternative bittering agents to be used in these pesticides in order to increase the efficacy.
Thank you, Panchalie, for that detailed explanation of your research project. Tell us a little bit about what the entire purpose of the research is. What is the outcome of this for the society?
So this research actually focuses on the taste system of houseflies. So knowing the housefly response to different constituents, like how their taste system works, it is important in developing novel pesticides and also improving the efficacy of pesticides that are currently used. Because unlike humans, insects can taste with different body parts apart from the mouth part, and it depends from organisms to organism too, like from insect group to insect group. For an example, houseflies, they can also use their legs, like the tarsi of the legs, to taste because they have taste receptors there. So how they feed is they would land on a food source, and when the tarsal receptors get stimulated, they will either put their mouth out or not to ingest the food depending on whether it is appetitive to them or not. When developing pesticides, you have to know about like the taste system of that targeted species and what concentrations of those relevant constituents that they will avoid or they are attracted to in order to get the most out of it. So my research is mostly focusing on how to improve the efficiency of these pesticides and also to help out in developing novel pesticides and to gain an idea about how insect taste system works.
How does your research affect people? Why should people care about your research?
So when it comes to people, one is like this is an interesting thing that most people don't know about because we know that we can taste using our taste buds. But at the same time, we have to know like everything around us does not work the same way as it happens with humans. So when it comes to insects, it's interesting to know that they can use different body parts for tasting. So one is that interest, and so it might make more maybe kids, maybe undergraduates more curious. And the other thing is people who are work in the livestock regarding agriculture, like who are actually using these pesticides, it is beneficial for them to know there is a bittering agent used for this purpose. And also the ones who are manufacturing these pesticides, it is important for them to know whether these constituents that they are actually adding to these pesticides, whether they are actually working or not. And another problem with insects and pesticides is like with these chemical pesticides, the insects tend to evolve resistance to these pesticides. That means over time they will be avoiding or they do not get harmed by these different pesticides that are currently used because they will be evolving certain physiological adaptations as well as behavioral adaptations over time. So when it comes to insect evolution of resistance, it does not only work with the active ingredient or the toxin which will kill the pest, but now it has been found that some insects are also evolving this resistance to inactive substances like glucose, which is actually added as like a feeding attractant in pesticides. So learning about these different constituents in pesticides is important to people in general because they get an understanding about how insect taste system works and how to improve the efficiency of pesticides and to get an idea about that insects and everybody around us, we are evolving and evolution is happening around us. And it can be, if it comes to pesticide resistance, it could be to the active ingredient which actually is intended to kill the pest, but also at the same time it could be something else too. So yeah.
Tell us, why should we use pesticides to get rid of houseflies? What's the
Okay, so yeah, so especially in USA, so you have a lot of farms, dairy farms like beef, cattle. Yeah, so you have like livestock industry going like really well here. And houseflies are a major pest insect in those facilities because they are mechanical vectors. That means they can transmit like diseases. They can carry those pathogens from one organism to another. So they can carry different pathogens to these livestock, and also they are a nuisance to the people who are working in these livestock facilities, and also like to the neighbors around it, because high numbers or high abundance of houseflies is an issue because they are really a nuisance most of the time. So because of that, the livestock industry and people who are involved in that, they have to like control the numbers. And one of the methods that they use is like manure management. But then manure management alone cannot control the fly numbers, which is why chemical control measures like pesticides, toxic baits are used, and also some biopesticides too. But currently, like the biopesticides which are used in the market, and also like there are natural enemies also, like they alone cannot control the numbers, which is why we have to still rely on chemical control measures. So which is why like pesticides have to be used to control fly numbers.
Okay, great. I have another question, a follow-up question. The agent that you're studying is Denatonium Benzoate.
Yes.
Are there any side effects to humans of using that?
No. No, as in like Denatonium benzoate is considered the most bitter substance to humans, and it is commercially available by the name Victories. So there has been a study involving Denatonium benzoate used in small children around the age of like 17 months. So denatonium benzoate was dissolved in orange juice, and like these kids were given orange juice to drink in order to see like their reactions. And like the concentration they used was 10 to 20 parts per million. And so since they gave the children to actually ingest it, so it is not something harmful for humans. And also like even the concentrations that I am using, I use up to 1,000 parts per million, and like there's no harm involved in it. But then again, it is really, really bitter. So you really don't want to work with it because you can feel it in your mouth and it will be there for some time. So you really don't want to like work with it because it's really bitter. But as of now, it is not harmful to humans. But I don't know with very high concentrations. But the concentrations that are currently used in pesticides, and also like the concentrations that have been tested with humans, it is not toxic.
Okay, interesting. I'm really curious about that one study you mentioned where they had administered a small concentration of the agent to kids. That's not ethical, though. I mean, we don't know the harms of it. So when was that done?
I think it was done in 1987. Yeah, so it was, yeah.
And that
was a long time ago. And like during that time, like there have been 2 other studies with denatonium benzoate, where another study where children have been tested and another study where adults have been tested, but I can't remember like the content of those studies.
Yeah, we might be going a little off track beyond the area. I just got a little curious about that specific study.
Yeah. And also, denatonium benzoate is not only used in pesticides, it is actually used in household other stuff, sometimes in paint and other stuff. You don't want children and pets to like eat from it, so it is used in other products as well.
Okay, very interesting. I want to talk about, your previous experience you had before you started the PhD in the field. Can you talk a little bit about what qualifications you had to get into this PhD program to help those who might want to follow the same path?
Okay, so I did my bachelor's degree in University of Colombo, Sri Lanka, and it was a 4-year degree. And during our last year, we have to do like an individual research project, which is like a 1-year research project, which involves us writing our own dissertation, and then there is a defense involved in it, and also a seminar. So it was similar to what we are doing in the PhD program, also the structure. And based on my 1-year research project I did back in Sri Lanka, I had one research publication done based on that. And And then when I was applying, the main things that they were looking for were GRE scores. They wanted IELTS or TOEFL scores for English. And then the other things they were looking for were 3 recommendation letters and your statement of purpose. But since my field is more in natural sciences, since it is entomology, you have to write to advisors, potential supervisors, and make sure that you have someone who is willing to take you into their labs. So that is the number one thing I had to do. While I was working towards like getting my scores ready, like GRE and IELTS, I also had to write to multiple supervisors, like potential supervisors, in order to make sure that I have like a space secured in their lab before applying to universities. So that is like the main thing you have to do. And like when you're writing to the supervisors, it's good to have your GPAs ready, like you have your transcripts ready, and then you have to have your CV ready. And it's good if you have presented your work at different conferences. So by the time I applied, I have already presented my work at 6 different conferences, and I was already working on my manuscripts. So those are things that would help you out in getting an interview with a potential supervisor and also like securing a space in one of their labs.
Did you do a master's, by the way?
No, I did not. I came straight to my PhD. I think was mainly because in Sri Lanka you have a 4-year degree program with 120 credits covered, and during the 4th year you are actually doing a research project, and so with those qualifications you can get into a PhD straight away without a master's.
Because you had thesis writing experience,
Yes.
script writing experience, and also publications. And did you do any other degrees before you started the PhD that may have helped out in the process?
No, I started studying for attorneys. I actually went to law college in Sri Lanka and I completed 2 years there as well. But then again, I do not think that helped me out in this process. Yeah, I did not do any other degrees. It was just my bachelor's, and then straight away I applied here. But during that transition period from like my bachelor's to PhD, there was like a 1-year gap during which I was actually like working as a teaching assistant, which is termed as demonstrator in Sri Lanka. So I was working as a demonstrator in Sri Lanka for like 13 months. And during that time only, like I was working on my manuscripts and like getting ready my scores to submit and like writing to supervisors. So.
Great. You already talked about my next couple of questions, which was the process of applying to the program. So let's jump right into talking a little bit about the structure of the program.
So in my program my program runs for 5 years, and there are certain courses that you have to do. In my program, you have to take a biostatistic course and then another 3 credit course depending on what your advisor and your dissertation committee suggests, which would be beneficial for your thesis. And apart from that, you have to take 4 seminar credits. Each would be 1 credit seminar, and that 2 seminars during the first 2 years of your PhD and the other 2 after the second year. And then before you complete your 3rd year in your PhD program, you have to sit for the candidacy exam. And for the candidacy exam, there are 2 parts. One is the written portion and one is the oral portion. And the written portion, the structure differs from university to university. In my university, in our department, they make us write a grant proposal based on my research or an extension of my research. And after that, you move on to the oral portion where you have to present your proposal and they will be questioning you based on that. And after that, they will be asking general questions which are related to your study area. So like for the general questions, they will be providing you like the topics 10 to 14 days prior, and then you can get ready for it and they will be questioning based on that.
Now that we've talked about your research and your PhD program and how you got to this place, let's talk about your personal experiences in getting to doing a PhD in entomology. Let's talk a bit about challenges that you faced since the day that you planned to do a PhD. If you have had any challenges, can you share with us what that has been like?
Yeah, sure. So when I got into University of Colombo, like I really wanted to do a PhD. That was my goal. I really wanted to do a PhD, and I knew I wanted to do my PhD in another country, not in Sri Lanka. So I worked towards it, but there were like ups and downs during my bachelor's too. It's not like I got the perfect grades for each and every subject. So I had to like, because I was doing like extracurricular work too at the university. During my second year, I really had to work hard to make sure that I maintained that GPA in order to do like a special degree in zoology. And in doing that, I was not like a person who was really into insects from like a really small age. It's like when I was like specializing in zoology, I had this interest in invertebrates, and that got me into insects because I worked with moths for my undergraduate degree. And that is how I got interested with working with insects. And the challenges were, one is, unlike other programs like chemistry, where you can directly apply to the university and then you can get into the university, and after that you can figure out which lab you want to work in. For ours, like we have to write to potential supervisors and then like secure a space before applying to the university. So that was it was a challenge because you don't know this person. And unlike the students from USA, because they have the opportunity to go to the university, meet with these potential supervisors and get to know them before applying to the program. But for us, we might do like a Zoom call. We might see that person for like 1 hour, but we don't know about them and we don't have an idea about how it is going to be and how to live in like another country and manage everything. So writing to these people whom you have never met and you don't know at all, it was challenging. And also like after you get few acceptances, picking that one, thinking this is the right choice, that was hard. But I think like, if you go with your passion, like what you're really interested in, yeah, that is something you can cope up with. But then again, more importantly, like, when you're coming here from like another country, you will be moving away from home. So this is my first time living alone. I haven't lived alone before. So that itself was challenging because I'm learning to do everything by myself, and like, I don't have any family around me, and I don't have any Sri Lankans around me in this university. So like there's nobody who speaks your native language. So yeah, it was challenging trying to figure things out in like a foreign country, and yeah, making new friends, and yeah, because you don't know whom to rely on also like when you come here. So figuring out, and yeah, so that was tough. But at the same time, I'm glad I met really nice people who have been helpful to me all the time. So
I assume you have a good social network now. Maybe a follow-up question. You mentioned something about not wanting to do a PhD in Sri Lanka. Can you talk briefly about why you didn't want to do a PhD in Sri Lanka?
That was mainly because like I studied in University of Colombo, like which is the number one university there. So I really wanted to get some exposure and get exposed to like new techniques used in my area of study, and to see how different systems work, because the course structure and how things work in USA is not the same as Sri Lanka. So I really wanted to get that exposure because I thought it would be beneficial for me.
And interestingly, the work that you're studying in the States can actually be applied to some contexts in Sri Lanka as well.
Yeah, because I'm working with pest insects. So Sri Lanka is a tropical country and you have so many pests. So like, it might be not the same study organism, but you can apply the methods that we are using in Sri Lanka too. So
that's a lot of interesting work that you're doing. I'm very excited to see where it goes in the future. I wanted to ask about country-specific or university-specific question. Now, I think you've been over there in the States for about 4 years or so?
Yeah, it's my third year. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what are some of the challenges associated with pursuing a PhD that are particular to the States that you believe should be addressed to help out PhD students, if there's anything?
So in States, I think like the PhD programs are running for like 5 years, whereas there are other countries like Australia where the PhD program is only for like 3 years. And sometimes the course structure and the things that have been designed here, you can't sometimes go for an early graduation even if you have finished most of your research work too, because you have these certain credits that you have to take. And also like especially for international students, there is like a specific credit limit that you have to take like each semester, and it's not flexible. So Yeah, that is one thing. And the other thing is with the USA, the visa restrictions, like applying for visa in USA is really hard, like, and getting through it. And I think for students, it might be a bit easy. But then again, like, if the student is coming with the family, unlike other countries, it's really hard to secure a visa when it comes to USA. So if you have dependents, if you have your family, like your children and your husband or wife, like joining with you, so you might have to pay a bit more attention because sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. So it is like totally, sometimes I think it is based on luck, I guess, like securing that dependent visa to USA. So
You can see how that can be added stress while you're
yeah, it is. It is because especially for people with family, like who are married and have kids, if they are in two different places, it is like a added challenge. And I have seen, like, I myself is like that. But then again, like I am somehow coping with it. But I have met my friends who got depression, and yeah, because of that. So it is hard. So if they can like actually think about the mental health of the students also, so that would be really nice.
Yeah, I think I have heard of too many stories of international students who have to go through that. Hopefully, the path to getting visa quickly and in the right way can be improved for students who are coming from different countries to the States. Thank you so much, Panchalie, for talking about challenges that you faced so far. Tell us a little bit about positive experiences doing the PhD.
So my biggest positive experience or like the green flag is my advisor. She's like super nice and I'm so grateful that I met her because she is not pressurizing us, like any of us in the lab. We can make our own timeline and work through our research, which is really nice. And like she's always guiding us through our work, but then she's not pressuring us and asking for this and that and looking at the timelines. If she says that we are working, that is all that matters for her. And she also takes time to look check on us, not just the work related to our research, but also like she checks on how we are doing and also like about our family and whether our mental health, mental well-being is okay and stuff like that. So she is really nice and she also like, helped me out in adapting to like this new environment. And apart from that, I've met really good friends who have helped me a lot. So yeah, those are like the positive things. And also my department is I've actually met like really good people. I think for me the positive experience out of this PhD program is the people like that I've met. They've been so nice to me and I've met wonderful people. So that is the most positive thing out of this PhD, I guess. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, your network matters, your friends matter, especially in grad studies. So I'm really glad that it's been like that for you.
Yeah, I'm glad too.
It would be tough to do a PhD without a strong support system. I did part of my PhD during COVID, and I think you did too, right?
Yeah, my first year during COVID, and I couldn't actually come here during my first year, so I was in Sri Lanka, and it was actually my advisor who asked me to complete my first year while in Sri Lanka online. So I completed most of my coursework while in Sri Lanka, and that also helped me out because when I came here, I could start my research work straight away.
It's really very, very nice of them to let you do that. I have seen instances where people are not so flexible for
Yes.
not so justifiable reasons, and I think that's too bad to see that. So I'm really glad to hear that your supervisor was.
She was like really flexible because like she wasn't sure whether I'm going to secure my visa or not, but still she gave me the chance to start my work and see how it goes. So that was really nice. So I was actually able to finish off my first year without wasting my time. So that was nice. And also like I was able to get my proposal done while I was in Sri Lanka, and also like since we had time, we also started on a review. And now by my third year, I published 2 reviews. They were both started while I was in Sri Lanka during that COVID time. So I think I got most out of that period. Though I was in Sri Lanka and not in the lab doing my work, I still got a lot done. So I'm really grateful.
It's definitely a better way to have spent that time.
Yes.
I wanted to go back to talking about your research topic. What are some existing gaps in your area of research? For example, topics that a student may work on in the next 3 to 5 years if they choose to complete a PhD in the same field that you're working in.
One of the things that they can do is, so we are doing behavioral studies based on the insect taste system, but then again, like they can if they want to go in depth about like the taste system of insects, they can do electrophysiological studies, which looks into how the nervous system and all those receptors work in insects. So that is like one of the fields when it comes to like insect chemoreception. And then if we look into the pesticide aspect, another thing that they could work on is, since the world is moving towards sustainable agriculture, we are trying to use less chemical pesticides but more biopesticides, or else like natural enemies of different pest groups. Students can actually work on developing like novel biopesticides, but at the same time, when working on these things, the most important thing is like even currently, like certain biopesticides are there against these pest insects. But still, some of the issues involved is the biopesticides work mechanism, or it should attack the pest insect in the given time span or lifespan of that insect, because the lifespan of an insect in the lab and the lifespan of an insect outside in the field, it is different. So whatever the novel pesticide, whether it is a chemical pesticide or biopesticide, it should be efficient and it should work during that time duration, like time span of that insect. So most importantly, I think there are different biopesticides, but working on increasing the efficiency of the biopesticide, it still needs to be done. But yeah, you can certainly like work on that. So that is like another thing that actually new students can work on. And apart from that, insects are evolving resistance to these pesticides continuously. So looking into those mechanisms and coming up with different new strategies or integrative pest management strategies. So those are like different avenues that students can work on.
Now I have a most frequently asked question. A lot of people wonder how PhD students maintain a balance. Tell us a little bit about how you do it.
So it's like when I first started here, even I struggled with finding that balance. Even I do have like a very good advisor, but still I struggled with maintaining that balance, because when you start working on your research, sometimes you feel like you really have to do it and get things done. So in order to move on to the next experiment or like the next step. But then again, like after some time, I realized I need to maintain that balance in order for me to be productive. So now what I do is I try to work only during like the 5 weekdays, and during the weekends I really don't work on my research work. I try to avoid working on that, and that is like something that I think, yeah, I have made myself a small rule that I won't be working on those things like during my weekend. So like Saturday I don't do anything related to my academics. I just enjoy myself and get my house chores done. That's it. And Sunday maybe I'll get prepared for my next week, but still I'm not doing my lab work or anything during the weekdays. So weekend. So yeah. It's like, I think finding that balance is up to each individual, but it's really important that you try to not work during weekends, but keep that time for yourself to enjoy in little things in life apart from like your academics and lab work.
Of course, it's a game changer. During my time, I did not take weekends off. I didn't even know sometimes it was a weekend. Now, I don't do anything work related on the weekends, and it's very different to take 2 days off and then go back to work on Monday. So I would highly recommend taking the weekends off.
I think it's hard at first, but then again, like you yourself have to make that attempt to get that weekend off, because you really need a break to be productive, and like you have other things going in your life and you need time for that too. When you don't have time for that, you get more stressed and pressurized, I think, trying to balance off everything. So having that weekend dedicated for other things would help you out with getting your stuff done during the weekdays too, I think. Yeah, that works for me now. So, yeah.
All right, I have another question. What is one PhD myth that you would like to debunk today?
I think people believe that to do a PhD that you have to be super smart, and I don't think so. Because I think for a person to do a PhD, I don't think that person has to be super smart, but instead I think that person needs to be passionate about whatever they are learning on. I don't think a person should start doing a PhD just because they want a doctorate or like, yeah, to get acceptance from the society or anything like that. Like, I think someone has to do a PhD if they really, really is passionate about that field, because it's a 5-year process and you're sticking to doing research in a specific area for 5 years. And if you don't enjoy doing that, then your PhD is going to suck, to be honest. So you have to be like really passionate about it. So yeah. You don't have to be smart, super smart to do a PhD, because every day it's a learning process. Every day we learn something from your academics, or maybe like just when you're traveling. Even when you're traveling, you learn something every day. So it's a learning process. So anyone can do a PhD if they're passionate and also they're dedicated. You have to be dedicated because you are dedicated 4 to 5 years of your life for a certain thing. So that is one of the things. And also, like most of the PhD students, I think they get intimidated when working with peers and academics all around you. So I think you shouldn't get intimidated or feel insecure, because you can't know everything. But in the process of getting your PhD, you can learn things, learn new things, and you will experience new things. And most importantly, like if you hear something that you're not familiar with, you shouldn't feel insecure. Instead, you should make it an opportunity to learn something new. So, because I think for most PhD students, it is the same. We feel insecure at first. Even I have felt that. You tend to develop that inferiority complex within yourself, but you shouldn't do that, because people are specializing in different areas and you can't know everything. But remembering that it's a learning process and you will be learning new things every day. And you came so far because you are capable is really important.
Of course. And a good thing in academia is there are no stupid questions. I've heard that undergrad professors say that, which is a wonderful thing. That is the process of learning. So
that is something I really appreciate here as well. Like, because like even here professors say when they don't know something, they say like, I don't know this, but I can look up about it and let you know the next step, which is like really nice. So they show to the students that you can't know everything, but you can always learn with all the resources that are available. Like if you know what right resources to use, you can always learn something that you don't know. But in Sri Lanka, I did, like as an undergraduate, I did not see that, because it was more like the academics, they should know everything. That is the kind of mindset there. So I really appreciate that here the professors are really straightforward and they're sharing that they don't know everything and they can always look up and like help you out or direct you to whoever the person who actually knows about it. So
yeah, of course. And because you mentioned Sri Lanka, it is a very common problem there that academics have that attitude of you should know it all, we know it all. I think it's a highlight that people who are watching this video in Sri Lanka should take away. So we're coming to the end of the interview, Panchalie. What is one advice you would give to future and current PhD students beyond all the wisdom that you've shared with us today?
I think not even for PhD students, but like students in general, I think you should enjoy your life. That is the main thing. You might be doing a job after your degree, or you might be doing like something after your high school, like maybe a technical college, or maybe something maybe like you're going to be an entrepreneur or anything. You should enjoy life. You should do things that you really like, because if you're not enjoying your life, I don't think whatever the success that you're achieving, if you're not enjoying life, I don't see like you going anywhere without being happy. I think like you should try to find happiness. Like there will be like challenges, but still finding that little source of happiness is really important. And also staying connected with people who matter the most to you is also really important, I think, because that helps you out a lot.
I agree with you. Anything else that you would like to share with our audience before we say goodbye to them?
Yeah, so if there's anyone who would like to apply to a PhD here in US, especially in natural sciences, you can, like if you need advice, like you can always ask from me. I'm ready to help you. And also doing a PhD is not like a hard process. Everybody can do it if they're passionate about it. And having a PhD does not mean you are a person like who knows it all, but rather you have specialized in a certain area. And also even after PhD, people are learning. So it's a learning curve. So even you do a PhD or not, like you are learning every day. So make the most out of it, whatever the knowledge that you're gaining from everyday experiences.
Thanks a lot for hanging out with us today and dropping some really awesome PhD wisdom and stories. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. And a big thank you to all of you for joining us today. Hope you found this episode useful. Until next time, stay awesome and bye for now.